Assalamualaikum and good day to each and everyone, especially to you, Mom. This is Aslea P.B. Wang, and the subtitle of my report was all about the temperature. And the subtopic is Temperature's Variation with Time, Temperature and Plant Growth, Cold Injury to Plants, Life Forms, and the summary of my report. Temperature variation with time. It must also be realized that the temperatures change with time, not only in geologic terms but also from year to year and from decade to decade. This fluctuation may or may not be cyclic, occurring at regular intervals or with a regular rhythm, but it does occur. The evidence comes in part from actual temperature records. The oldest and the most complete set of data is from New Haven, Connecticut, dates from the late 18th century. From this, it can be seen that the mean annual temperature was substantially lower in the early 19th century than at present, a fact confirmed by other meteorological records throughout the world and by indirect evidence such as the retreat of glaciers, the thinning of Arctic and Antarctic ice, and the changing distribution of plants and animals. So we must understand that the temperature changes over time, not only in geological na context kundi pati na rin every year and decades. Temperature changes may have a cycle that occurs at regular intervals or gaps or have a regular rhythm, but it definitely happens. This evidence is nagmula sa actual na mga record ng temperature. And ang pinakaluma at pinakakompletong set ng data ay mula sa New Haven, Connecticut na nag-start o nagsimula noong 18th century. So in this data, makikita natin na ang karaniwang annual temperature ay mas mababa noong 19th century compare sa kasalukuyan. This fact is confirmed by other meteorological records around the world and by indirect evidence such as the retreat of glaciers, the thinning of Arctic and Antarctic ice, and the change in the distribution of plants and animals. It is important for us to understand that the Earth's temperature is not static, meaning that it changes over time. These changes not only occur in distant times, but also annually and decades. Temperature changes may have regular cycles, but the important thing is these changes are actually happening. My next subtopic was all about the temperature and plant growth. Temperature and plant growth. Plants regulate their temperature by dissipating part of the energy they absorb and thus preventing death due to the excessive temperature of the three major mechanisms: the radiation, transpiration, and convection. Dissipation of energy by radiation accounts for one-half of the energy plants absorb. Gates, 1965. Transpiration accounts for an additional heat loss as the leaf is cooled when energy is expended in changing water to water vapor. In addition, convection across the thin air zone that surrounds all surfaces in still air. The boundary layer acts to transfer heat from the leaf to the cooler air. When the leaf is cooler than the air, as is typical at night, heat is transferred to the leaf from the air by convection and conduction. Through the interaction of these and other adaptations described below, the plant maintains a heat balance with its environment. So nasabi dito ng mga halaman ay may kakayahang i-regulate ang kanilang temperature sa pamamagitan ng pag-alis ng sobrang init na kanilang nare-receive o natatanggap. This process is important to prevent the death of plants caused by the excessive temperature they received or received. So, the three mechanisms in removing heat is the radiation, transpiration, and convection. So, sa radiation, sa radiation is, ang mga halaman is naglalabas ng energy in the form of heat, which contributes to about half of the heat they receive. Then sa transpiration naman is, habang ang tubig is sumisingaw mula sa mga dahon, nagiging malamig ang mga ito, which is removes the heat. And sa convection is yung hangin sa paligid ng mga dahon is tumutulong sa paglipat ng init mula sa mga dahon patungo sa mas malamig na hangin. So that is the mechanisms in removing heat: the radiation, transpiration, and convection. Then the next is the temperature and plant activity. So the activity and growth of plant is nakadepende sa pagkakaroon ng sapat na tubig at temperature na higit sa 0 degrees Celsius. Like for example is, photosynthesis takes place even at low temperatures of 6 degrees Celsius due to heat from the sun. As the temperature increases, the activity of plants also increases until an optimum temperature is reached. Kung labis itong tataas, maaring magdulot ito ng pagkamatay ng mga halaman. Then, the temperature difference between day and night is important sa growth ng halaman. Like for example is the Pinusteda, also known as loblolly pine seedlings. So, Pinusteda is grow faster during cool nights and warm days. Then, other trees such as the Pinus ponderosa, or also known as ponderosa pine, is grow better in warm days and nights. The next is the effect of temperature on photosynthesis. So, the photosynthesis is affected by temperature and light. At high temperatures, enzymes become ineffective and the rate of photosynthesis may decrease. So, ano nga ba yung enzyme? So, ang enzyme ay yung parang mga maliliit na tumutulong sa paggawa or pag-process ng pagkain ng halaman. Pero, sensitive sila sa init. Meron silang tamang temperature lang kung saan sila pinakamabilis na nagfa-function. Kung masyadong malamig naman or masyadong mainit, nagiging mabagal o kaya tumitigil na sila sa pag-process ng pagkain. And excessive heat such as the 50 degrees Celsius can cause plant death. So next is the protection mechanism. So the leaves have different shapes and orientations that help to reduce overheating. Like for example na lang natin is yung mga leaves ng Acer rubrum. So Acer rubrum, also known as the red maple. So yung mga leaves niya, yung mga leaves ng red maple is tumatayo sa sobrang liwanag para mabawasan yung init na na-absorb nila. Then, the transpiration is nakakatulong din upang mapanatili ang mas malamig na temperature sa loob ng halaman. Like what I have said kanina, na yung transpiration is habang ang tubig is sumisingaw mula sa mga dahon, nagiging malamig ang mga ito which removes heat or tinatanggal niya yung init sa halaman. My next subtopic is all about the cold injury to plants. Unlike lethal high temperatures, lethal cold temperatures occur periodically throughout the entire zone of tree growth in the temperate and boreal regions of the earth and thus affect to a greater or lesser degree the distribution and growth of trees in these zones. Death of plant tissues, particularly of actively growing plants and succulent tissues, may occur from rapid freezing and formation of ice crystals within the protoplasm. Slow freezing also may kill many semi-hardy plants at temperatures of -15 degree to -45 degrees Celsius, 5 degree to -49 degree Fahrenheit, at rates of cooling that commonly occur in nature. Weiser, 1970. According to Weiser, water between cells freezes, dehydrating cell contents until a point is reached when only vital water remains in the protoplasm. As temperature decreases, further vital water is pulled away from the protoplasm, initiating denaturation and ultimately causing death. In tropical plants, death may occur at above freezing temperatures ranging up to 5 degrees Celsius, 41 degree Fahrenheit. So, ang lethal high temperatures is ito na yung nagiging sanhi sa kamatayan ng buhay ng mga organisms. Like for examples is sa mga tao. So, 41 to 45 degrees Celsius, 106 and negative 113 degree Fahrenheit is matindi ang pagkakaroon ng heat stroke. Yun yung sa tao. Then sa hayop naman is 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, 104 negative 122 degree Fahrenheit is ito yung nagiging sanhi ng heat stress. Heat stress naman sa hayop. Then sa halaman is 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, 104 negative 122 degree Fahrenheit. So, ito yung sanhi ng pagkasira ng mga cells ng halaman. And then sa mikrobyo naman is 60 to 80 degrees Celsius, 140 negative 176 degree Fahrenheit. So, ito yung nagiging sanhi ng pagkamatay ng mga bakterya. Ito yung sa mikrobyo. Then, hindi lahat or hindi lang ang init ang nakakamatay sa mga halaman. Pati ang matinding lamig ay isang malaking banta rin, lalo na sa mga puno sa mga lugar na may malamig na klima tulad ng temperate at boreal regions. Ang lamig ay nakakaapekto sa kung saan at paano lumalaki ang mga puno sa mga lugar na ito. When the weather suddenly cools, the water inside the plant cells quickly freezes. Parang mga maliliit na kristal na tumutusok at nakakasira sa mga cells ng halaman. Kahit ang unti-unting paglamig ay nakakapatay sa mga halaman, lalo na sa mga hindi gaanong matibay sa or matiisin sa lamig. The water between the cells freezes and causes the cells to dry out until they run out of precious water. After that, ang mga cells is nagsisimulang masira at sa huli ay namamatay. Then sa mga tropical plants naman, death can occur even at temperatures above the freezing point, about 5 degrees Celsius. Pero, ang mga puno sa mga malamig na lugar ay may kakayahang mag-adapt sa lamig. At the end of the growing season, trees become inactive and the amount of water in their cells is decreases or nakukulangan. Then, ito ay parang paghahanda nila sa taglamig para hindi masira ang kanilang mga cells kapag nagiging ice ito or nag-yellow. Ang kakayahang ito na makatiis sa lamig ay tinatawag na frost hardiness. At ito ay nabuo sa pamamagitan ng natural selection. Kaya ang mga puno sa isang lugar ay mas sanay sa malamig na panahon kaysa sa mga puno sa ibang lugar. Like for example is ang ponderosa pine at lowland white fir ay nagiging mas matibay sa lamig sa pagtatapos ng tag-init at simula ng taglagas ng mga dahon. So, ang kanilang mga dahon ay nakakatiis sa mga temperature na negative 55 degrees Celsius. My next subtopic is all about the life forms. So, ang kakayahan ng mga halaman na mabuhay sa mga hindi kanais-nais na panahon ay mahalaga sa kanilang kaligtasan. Dahil dito, nahating mga halaman sa iba't ibang uri batay sa kung paano sila nakakatulog o naghihintay sa panahon na hindi sila makakagawa ng pagkain. Ang pinakakaraniwang uri ay ang mga evergreen plants, deciduous plants, perennial plants at annual plants. So evergreen plants is ito yung mga halaman na may green leaves the whole year. Then sa deciduous plants naman is yung mga halaman na naglalagas ng dahon sa panahon ng taglamig. And then sa perennials plants is ito yung mga halaman na nabubuhay ng higit sa 2 taon. And the annual plants is mga halaman na nabubuhay ng 1 taon lamang. In 1907, a scientist named Ronquier organized and gave names to the different types of plant life. Here are the some of them. Number 1 is the Phanerophytes. Number 2 is Chamaephytes. Then the third one is the Cryptophytes. And the last is the Pterophytes. So sa Phanerophytes, dito is yung mga halaman na ito is parehong evergreen at deciduous. There are buds that are above the ground. This includes all the trees. Then sa Chamephytes naman is ang mga halaman na ito ay may mga buds na malapit sa lupa. And then sa hemicrotophytes is ang mga buds ng mga halaman na ito is nasa ibabaw ng lupa, ngunit natatakpan ng lupa o mga dahon. Then sa cryptophytes, dito is yung mga halaman is may mga buds na nakabaon sa lupa o sa ilalim ng tubig. Then sa pterophytes, ito yung mga halaman o annuals na nakukumpleto ang kanilang ikot ng buhay sa loob lamang ng isang taon. Nakakatulog sila sa anyo ng buto sa panahon ng hindi kanais-nais na panahon. So, pinag-aaralan ng mga ecologist ang kaugnayan sa pagitan ng iba't ibang uri ng buhay ng halaman sa isang lugar at ang kanilang distribution. Maraming mga salik ang nakakaapekto sa kung saan lumalaki ang mga halaman, kaya ang kaugnayan ay hindi palaging malinaw. Pero, masasabi natin na sa mga lugar na may matinding klima, mas madaling mabuhay ang mga halaman na nakakatulog sa anyo ng mga stone o nakabaon sa lupa sa panahon ng unfavorable weather. Like for example, in deserts, plants that go dormant in seed form survive more easily during droughts. In areas with extreme cold, plants that are buried in the ground or have buds close to the ground survive more easily. My last subtopic is the summary of my report. So, plants regulate their temperature by dissipating excess energy through the three main mechanisms. So, the three main mechanisms is the radiation, transpiration, and convection. Other methods such as leaf orientation and coloration helps plant function in high temperatures. When leaves are cooler than the air, they can warm up through convection and conduction. Then temperature greatly affects plant growth by influencing biochemical reactions and the ability of roots to absorb water and nutrients. Different tree species have varying temperature preferences. Some thrive in high daytime temperatures, while others prefer high nighttime temperatures. Many plants achieve optimal growth in fluctuating temperatures between day and night. Then plant activity and growth depend on the availability of free water to plant cells, which is limited to temperatures above freezing. Frost hardiness or acclimation refers to the transition of plants from a soft growing stage to a hardy dormant state. These changes are triggered by shorter day length in fall, with frost initiating further reductions in water content. Before spring growth resumes, many woody species require a period of winter chilling, the length of which varies by species and local climatic conditions. So that is the last subtopic of my subtitle temperature, the summary of my report. So thank you for watching and listening again. This is Leia P. Biwang.